Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are gathered here to discuss the ongoing turmoil in Pakistan and its impact on India. As many of you may be aware, Pakistan has been facing a multitude of challenges in recent years, including political instability, economic crisis, and security concerns. These issues have had a profound impact on the country and its people and have garnered international attention. The panelists today are Mr. Sipal Singh, Major General Dhruv Katoj, and Ambassador Vivek Katju. Mr. Sipal Singh is the president of Nisbat International. He served India as a senior police officer in all parts of the country. He's raised the Rapid Action Force and was its first chief. He raised the Internal Security Academy in Mount Abu in Rajasthan. He is a highly decorated police officer. Post-retirement, he's been recognized by the President of India as the Security Personality of the Year in 2009. He served as a consultant on security matters with the Tatas, and is frequently invited on news channels for his views on homeland security and police matters. General Katoj, as an alumnus of the Sherwood College in Nainital, the National Defence Academy, and the National Defence College. General Katoj was commissioned in March of '72. He's a third-generation Army officer. He has a master's degree and an MPhil in Defence Studies, and is also a doctorate of philosophy from the Indira Gandhi University. He served the Army for about four decades. Post-retirement, he's worked with the Center for Land Warfare Studies for about 5 years. The last 3 years, he's been the director of this institute. He's a prolific writer and commentator on defense and security related issues. He's co-edited several books and has written book chapters for many more. He also appears frequently on national television news channel debates featuring national security and international relations. Presently, he's the director, India Foundation. He's the editor, Salute Magazine, and the Secretary General of the Indian War Veterans Association. Ambassador Vivek Katju, he joined the IFS in 1975 and has held various positions in the Ministry of External Affairs, including Joint Secretary of IPA, Additional Secretary, International Organizations, and Secretary West. He served India as an ambassador to Myanmar, Afghanistan, and Thailand. He's remained as Secretary of the Embassy in Washington, D.C. He served from 2009 to 2011 as Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in New Delhi and retired in August of 2011. In the discussion today, we'll be examining the problems in Pakistan that have led to the turmoil and the impact that it has or will have on India. And if time permits, also consider the impact of the Pakistani turmoil on the region and the world at large. But before we delve deeper into the topic, let's take a look at the current state of affairs of Pakistan. Pakistan has political instability, it has economic challenges, it has security concerns, it has created regional tensions, and also has a huge demographic challenge. The impact on India is from the side of security, border disputes, impact on economy, the likely refugee crisis should Pakistan turmoil continue, and the likely disintegration of Pakistan. I will ask each panelist to give their views for about 3 minutes, and then we'll take the discussion further from there. Mr. Sipal Singh, your turn first.
Thank you very much, Pawan. After the no confidence vote against Imran Khan, the present Pakistan Prime Minister was sworn in, having stated the election in Pakistan shall be held in October 2023. The prevailing political polarization between various parties has heightened the political instability. This is very obvious. Imran Khan is vigorously leading an opposition movement against the present coalition government, and he is means to denigrate the present government to the extent of even telling that this present government is a corrupt government. Pakistan thus has become a center of all political instability, leading to economic crisis. The possibility of return of the former Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif, who is brother of Shahbaz Khan, the present Prime Minister, in the country is also not ruled out. What will be the outcome further of the elections? How will the precarious economic situation take shape further? How shall the present disaster due to flood devastation in some provinces of Pakistan shall be tackled? How the increasing terror threats with Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, how escalation of internal terrorism by virtue of TTP, what shall be the reaction of Pakistan if Pakistan, who has nukes at its disposal, how shall this impact India, are critical points for consideration today. I feel that the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan, which has basis in Afghanistan also, is a major terror threat in Pakistan itself today. TTP has a sanctuary in Pakistan and Afghanistan, as we all know, but is finding it very difficult. Pakistan is finding it very difficult to negotiate now with the TTP, although they were fondling with it at one time, deteriorated. Thus, there is a mounting insecurity in the country itself. We'll go into details as to how TTP, how the economic conditions, how the havoc caused by disaster, how by the flood disaster, all these plus the political instability are going to impact our country or the neighboring country. The International Monetary Fund is not available at the moment. How the Pakistan is going to manage its affair due to understand the rising inflation today and no economic aid from the IMF, and there's no hope of any aid except probably at one stage Saudi Arabia may. At no more, there's nothing. So the condition in Pakistan is in a crisis. The entire condition, you may call political, you may call economic, you may call internal terrorism, you may call terrorist movement of TTP, you may call the flood disaster. All these things taken together, Pakistan seems to be a failing state, and such a failing state, being our neighbor, we have to consider seriously how will it impact us and how we should react. What should be our covert and overt policies towards Pakistan, and how should we go about? Thank you very much.
Dhruv, your turn.
Pawan, what I would like to state is, your opening remarks, I'm in agreement with all that you have said, when you have enumerated those challenges. But I would like to put it into a particular context. And that context is there are two specificities in Pakistani society. One is the overarching role of the military, of the army. And two, since the last 3 to 4 decades, the way the entire society has been radicalized. So whatever solutions or whatever we are talking about, I think this is something which will always be in the background, which we need to consider. Now, you spoke of demography. I would like to give a few facts. At the time of independence, when we're talking of 1947, and I'm only talking now of West Pakistan, not of a combined Pakistan. From that point onwards till today, the Pakistani population has increased 7 times. Now, to put that into perspective, the population of France has increased just about 1.5 times. That's all. The population of India has increased 4 times, but the population of Pakistan has increased 7 times. From 3 crores or so, or just less than 3 crores, they are more than 22 crores today. Now, you have not really built up your infrastructures accordingly as far as the population growth is concerned. And I'm not sure if they are in a position to carry out any sort of control measures now. On the other issues, when we are looking at, I won't be dealing with all these issues, but I just want to give some broad points. As far as the security issue is concerned, their basic threat today comes from the TTP and the freedom fighters from Balochistan, and the problem to some extent which they're also facing in Gilgit-Baltistan. But fundamentally, the problem is going to be very difficult to solve as far as the Pakistan military is concerned. Because today we have come to the stage when the Pakistani military, when the Pakistani Jawans, the military Jawans, are asking their officers, why should we fight the TTP? Because all that the TTP wants is to ask for Sharia. And we are a Muslim country and we need to be Sharia compliant. So you will find increasingly as the time goes by, it is going to be very difficult for the Pakistan military to motivate their army or their security forces, their police forces, etc., to fight this particular organization, the TTP. I'll just leave this there. We can discuss it further. You see, when we are looking at the economy, two things have happened. One, their economy was, of course, in a bad shape. But 2 years of COVID and last year's floods have created an unparalleled situation. Now, Pakistan has been through bad times earlier also, but it has never been this bad. Because now when they're going through such an economic turmoil, you have got certain other pressures also building up. And I personally do not see how they are going to get out of this. In fact, my own assessment has been they have crossed the tipping point, and now there is going to be great instability. They will not be able to pull back. The separatist tendencies are continuing, and they will also, within Pakistan, they will also continue at a very, very quick pace. But the biggest problem, and here I totally agree with you, is really political instability, the polarization which has taken place within the polity, which is not going to permit any action to be taken. Now, it stands to reason that when Pakistan is even suffering a very severe food shortage, they should actually come and request India for aid. But even in my interactions with various Pakistani journalists and thinkers, they have made it very clear we are not in a position to ask India for aid, because whichever political party does it, it will be ruined forever. So you see, those are the aspects which are going to prevent them from doing anything. This political polarization, there is no unity in the polity. And I think that is going to be a very, very major challenge for them. What India should do, I think we'll take up a little bit later. Pawan.
Ambassador Kachu, your opening remarks, please.
I agree with what my colleagues on the panel have said. Pakistan is in the midst of grave disorder and confusion. It is undergoing simultaneously a set of systemic challenges. And there seems to be no will either in the political class or in the establishment to address the fundamentals of these systemic challenges. It has boxed itself into a corner because of its view that India constitutes a permanent threat. Therefore, I personally am very pessimistic about its future. Now, having said that, I would like to place a couple of points for consideration. The first is that, as other speakers have said, as we also have said, Chairman, it is a country possessing nuclear weapons. And nobody wants a country with nuclear weapons to go into a state of anarchy. No one wants a nuclear Afghanistan or a nuclear Somalia. All the major powers in the international community has a stake, therefore, in Pakistan, quote unquote, stability. The problem is that it is very difficult to give them stability because they've got used to being on a ventilator. Whenever the international community has shown a degree of impatience towards Pakistan, some event has happened which has compelled the major powers, especially the Western powers, to come to its assistance. For the first time, and this is especially after the Americans accepted their strategic defeat in Afghanistan and withdrew, the international monetary agencies, which have come to Pakistan's rescue and which I believe will ultimately come to Pakistan's rescue, are showing a great degree of impatience. And hence they are asking Pakistan to set its economic house in order. Now, here, permit me to say that Pakistan has a thriving informal economy. The problem is that its state finances are in grave trouble. And no country can progress unless its state finances get stabilized. Informal economies cannot put countries on paths of rapid economic development. And that is the problem with Pakistan. It's been kept on a drip, it's been kept on a ventilator, and that plug will not be removed. The political class is at odds with itself, and that I do not think will change. The security situation is in a terrible state because the Pakistani establishment is unwilling to have a relook at its strategic doctrines, which rely on the use of calibrated terror against India. And that too, there is a certain obduracy in their establishment. Therefore, at the moment, the situation is the pressures on them are continuing. And I have the suspicion that the major powers are not concerned with which political party will come in power. They are looking more at the establishment, and they want the establishment to change and not live beyond its means, not rely on doles. These are very, very difficult questions for Pakistan to tackle. Two other points. I do not foresee Pakistan being allowed to fail for the reasons that I mentioned. Now, that doesn't mean that despite the best efforts of the international community, a state does not fail. But I see that as a very remote possibility. Second, I do not see the flow of refugees into India because I doubt whether Pakistanis would ever, given the history of our relationship, India and Pakistan, and also the forces embedded in the history of South Asia, I do not see Pakistanis crossing the fence and coming to seek a refuge here. With that, I will conclude and be available for any clarifications or questions that your members and Mr. Chairman may wish to ask.
If you all look at the way the political situation in Pakistan is today, you have the opposition led by Mr. Imran Khan. There are a couple of things that he has been able to achieve. One of them is made the Pakistan public aware that they are able to point fingers at the Pakistan establishment, which is the military. It has never happened before, but now increasingly people are pointing fingers at the military for their misdeeds. The military is being accused of corruption. The military is being accused of the ones who are the only ones who have money. The International Monetary Fund wants the military to have a relook at its budget, which the military has refused. And also, Imran Khan has got no plans that we hear of as to how to revive Pakistan should he come to power. Your views on this, Mr. Sipal Singh?
But we must keep in view that not a single prime minister in Pakistan has ever completed a full 5-year term as a as these chaotic conditions have been prevailing in one form or the other in Pakistan due to one reason or the other. Ms. Katju has referred also the informal economy. The informal economy, is rightly said, cannot meet the challenges of this crisis unless you are able to squeeze that informal economy available with some people and are able to use those funds, that is the main definition of any falling state. Such a falling state cannot squeeze the funds from the informal sources and utilize it for this. So a falling state may again get into the problem of being under the control of Pakistan Army. All along, the civil-military relationship have been main concern in Pakistan in one form or the other. General Javed Bajwa, who was once supporting Imran Khan, has clearly said now that after he's been ousted or something, that I do not think that army will now get into problem with the civilian government or the civil government. But how far this thing is carried out by General Asim Munir, the new general, is a big question. Though Bajwa has left with a promise that the army will no longer involve in the political affair, but this is yet to be believed. And more so, when the situation is in such a state of crisis, there's a danger that one stage or the other, the army may take over. And in such a situation, what will be the condition as far as how will it impact us? What will be the condition as far as the bordering countries are concerned? Very important factor is to be kept in view that when we talk of just now, Dharam mentioned also about TTP, I also mentioned about TTP. But basically, the TTP or the Afghanistan Taliban are the two sides of the same coin. You can't say, they have their own. Although initially it was believed that TTP will now work properly in consonance with Pakistan. Pakistan also released about 250 hostages, prisoners which were holding, considering that TTP may come over to this side. But the recent happening and recent attacks on certain Pakistan formations in Afghanistan by the TTP are evident that they were living in a fool's paradise. The TTP is not going to get into that sort of a condition where they should start sporting, because there is fundamentalism. So it may be a foreign TTP, or it may TTP Pakistan or the Taliban from Afghanistan. So this is a great danger. The Taliban feeling, the doctrine under which they work, that is going to be a great source of worry for the neighboring country. And more so when the countries are facing, like India, when country is on one side, you have got the nuclear state as a neighbor. Other side, Dragon has put its foot and resources here and there close to Pakistan and India. So there's a great concern. We'll go into detail that the impact is going to be not a concern of just feeling very happy that Pakistan is failing state, Pakistan, but it is going to have a great concern in due course of time for India itself.
Mr. Sipal Singh, my question was relating to Imran Khan, whether Imran Khan has a plan to take Pakistan out of the current situation.
I am saying,
should he return to power? Do you feel that Imran Khan has a plan that can that can get Pakistan out of this issue?
Sir, I started with it that under no circumstance, we will always be having this relation, army-civil relation. And always there has been dominance. Imran Khan has been carrying on because he was good and pally with Bajwa. Otherwise, if tomorrow you say that Imran Khan will independently be able to take over and be able to bring about stability, is very doubtful. Very doubtful. I think there's no plan in their cases. Most of the plans are how to instabilize, how to create instability for the present government. Imran Khan is only for political purposes.
Now let me go to Dhruv. Dhruv, what are your, you see, with the present instability in Pakistan, should any other person other than Shehbaz Sharif be in power, do you think they can pull Pakistan out of the nonsense that they are in?
Pavan, let me put it this way. Assuming elections are actually held this year, which they are planning to do, in my view, if these elections are conducted fairly, Imran Khan is going to win. Now, this is not just my opinion. I've spoken to many people in the Pakistani, in the think tanks and amongst the journalists. And every one of them says he's got tremendous ground level support. Now, the question is, can he turn them around? That is what your question was.
Yeah.
The point is, he had an opportunity. He didn't use it. Under Imran Khan, when he was the prime minister, the economic situation became worse. So the question is, can Imran turn it around now? I don't think so. He doesn't have the capacity or the capability to turn the economy around should he be elected as the prime minister. And the second point is, this is the point I was talking about, political instability. The opposition is going to be after him. When we are looking at the other two major political parties in Pakistan, they are not going to let him sleep easy. So that is going to be a problem. You know, one question as far as the economy is concerned, it is still being kept afloat by the informal economy as spoken about, largely through the drug trade, which contributes about $30 billion to this economy. Now, that is sort of sustaining it, but you can't use it for any purpose. That is one. The remittances which are coming from abroad, they have taken a dip. Now, the question is, while the remittances have taken a dip, as far as the government is concerned, the remittances are actually coming through the Hawala route. And that is because of the unrealistic exchange rate of the US dollar with the Pakistani Rupee. So because now the people are saying, why should we go with the legal way? You know, we will go the Hawala way where we get more money. Now, that is the logical reaction. And thirdly, as far as the military and the security budget is concerned, you know, whatever money they have to spend, 50% of that actually goes into this. So they are not, whether Imran comes or anybody else comes, I don't see them getting out of this quagmire. They are going to be in very deep trouble. Now, Ambassador Karju raised the point of refugees, and I just want to give a view on that, my view. In my view, there are not going to be any economic refugees. That is not going to happen. But I have posited a different viewpoint that, say in the years to come, this year or next year or the year after that, this becomes a Taliban government in place, a Taliban come military government in place, much akin to the government in Afghanistan, where they strip the women of rights, where they beat the people, you know, where they start whipping them on the streets for not wearing a kurta of a certain length or not having a beard of the requisite as per their definition of Islam or whatever. You see, we see what happened in Afghanistan in the two routes of the Taliban, the first one and the second one, where millions of people fled Afghanistan and they went to Iran and Pakistan. If you have a similar sort of structure occurring in Pakistan, I have a feeling a very large number of those people, I won't call them economic refugees, but they will try to get out of there. And what India needs to do is really to keep your BSF, which is guarding that border. It is a proper fenced border. You know, keep them alert and not allow this movement to take place, right? It is very difficult to keep people like that out. You know, there'll be men, women, and children, but we will have to think of measures, whether it takes place or not, I don't know. But the question is, we need to be prepared that should such an eventuality arise, we need to be prepared and see that it doesn't take place. And should we have to create an area for these people to stay, it should be within Pakistani territory and not this side of the border. So economic refugees, I've got absolutely no doubt they will not come. But refugees escaping a very severe Taliban, that possibility remains. And I think we need to be prepared for it. Pavan.
Ambassador Kachu, what is your opinion on should Imran Khan come back to power? Would he be able to pull Pakistan out of the quagmire it is in?
Submitted to you and to other colleagues that Pakistan suffers from systemic problems. These problems cannot be addressed by a change in individuals. They have to be addressed comprehensively by the political and security classes of Pakistan, going back to the drawing board And that would require a very, very painful exercise of considering, among other matters, their very foundational ideologies. And I don't see that happening. So it is not a question of Imran Khan or Nawaz Sharif or Shehbaz Sharif or Asim Munir pulling them out of the quagmire. They have an idea that India is a permanent threat, India is a permanent enemy, and India must be kept at bay. The army has succeeded, even though its popularity with the people may wax and wane as it has through the decades. Let us not forget that this is the same army which lost in 1971, but was able to regain power in 1971, 6 years after they ousted a very popular man who became increasingly unpopular, but initially a very popular Prime Minister, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So, the real issue for Pakistan is its fundamental outlook. And hence, I, for one, I'm really, forgive me for using the word, when I look at Pakistan, I get completely bored at looking at personalities. They can only tinker around with things. They cannot change the fundamental route that this country is taking. And as I submitted, these multiple crises are simultaneously coming to a head. And the international community is now saying, their donors are now saying, please set your house in order. You have nuclear weapons, we don't want you to get destabilized, we will keep you on a drip. But settle your house in order. And that I do not see at the moment anyone in Pakistan, because that will have to, anyone doing, because that will have to begin with the army chief and the corps commanders, whom I've always considered as the true cabinet of Pakistan, sitting down and telling their people, as Ayatollah Khomeini had told his people in 1988, and when the Iran-Iraq war had to end, that look, we have to drink from the poison chalice. We have to drink the poison. And this is a fact. This is what he told their people, that we made these sacrifices, millions have died, but the time has come to change. No one in Pakistan is willing to do that. So they'll keep tinkering. These crises will keep waxing and waning. At the moment, the TTP is giving them hell. But I do believe that the Pakistan army has the firepower and the capacity that if they want to carry out a scorched earth policy, it might be counterproductive in the long run. But if they are willing to carry out a scorched earth policy, they can control to a certain extent the activities of the TTP. Their real issue is how do they handle what they thought was their strategic depth and what is now really turning out to be a curse.
If you, I don't know whether you have been reading in the recent past, there have been people of Pakistani origin sitting outside of Pakistan who have begun to question the very origination of Pakistan. They are now questioning the ideology behind Mr. Jinnah creating Pakistan. They're also questioning that the children in schools have been taught to hate the Hindus and have been taught to hate India. Now, all this is beginning to change. There is a bit of a concern that is coming up. And some of the Pakistani people are feeling that the attitude of the education in Pakistan also needs to change to bring in an atmosphere where they do not begin from the right in the beginning to hate the Hindus and the Indians. Dhruv, your opinion.
Okay, just for me?
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, I have for a very long time advocated, and this was more than 10 years ago, when a group of American, the senior American legislators had come, I told them, I said, as far as Pakistan is concerned, you have to start with their textbooks, and you have to start in the junior classes and then wait for a generation to grow up. Now, I don't see that happening because the Ambassador Karju has very rightly put it down. The problem is the ideological base on which Pakistan was founded. And President Musharraf, the late President Musharraf now, when after leaving power, when he was in London, and he gave an interview. It's a very interesting interview. And in that interview, he was asked, he says, why don't you become friendly with India? And he gave a straightforward answer. He said, if we become friendly with India, then why did we separate in the first place? He said, there is no way in which we are going to become friendly with India. And that is an institutional thinking. So that institutional thinking is going to be very, very difficult to break. In any case, it will take more than a generation. I don't see it happening because unless that happens, nothing else will change. Now, these people whom we are talking about, I have also met them on TV debates and various channels which I go to, where the Pakistani guests are invited. They are also saying the same thing, but they are not in a position to influence the policy, and they are not in a position to influence the military. More importantly, if Pakistan starts going down that route now, the people who are the level of radicalization and the groups joining those parties, I'm afraid are going to increase dramatically. So they are going to have a huge problem on their hand. It is not going to be India. That problem of terrorism is there with Pakistan to stay. We are in a position to handle whatever they want to throw at us. At least the military aspect of it, they send in terrorists, they send in weapons, we'll handle that. What we will have to be careful about is the flow of ideology coming into the Indian Muslims in India from that side. That is something which we need to be very conscious and controlled right now. But as far as Pakistan is concerned, I don't see them doing it. I mean, Ambassador Karju has very rightly said, it is a structural problem. But the question is, how do you fix the structure? If the military attempts to fix the structure, I can assure you the radicalized clergy will get after them. And the military will have a very, very difficult time. So, very frankly, I don't have the answers. We can actually look at the problem. We know what the solution is, but how do you get to that solution? Well, it's beyond me. In my view, it's not going to happen in the next decade at least.
Yes, Mr. Seepa.
I'll carry the arguments further. The deliberated was, is Imran Khan the answer? I said, no. It is just a question of his own, a sort of, monopoly. Or he cannot be a question. He was never able to do things rightly in Pakistan. As well as some of the people, right-thinking people are thinking that ideologically they should change. It's impossible. At this stage, they are not going to change ideologically because they have been created with an ideology of a Muslim state, and they are not going to change. This crisis is not going to change. Imran Khan, of course, has a little advantage at this moment as far as the electorate is concerned. The two by-elections which are held recently, both the by-elections were won by Imran Khan. Second, Imran Khan has still, his party has still control over two big provinces in Pakistan, Punjab as well as the Afghanistan. They have got control over the two provinces. So that way, the electorate or the tomorrow elections ahead, there is a possibility that Imran Khan or some coalition he may form may come into power. But the bottom line for Pakistan is whether the government shall are going to have the support of Pakistan military or not. That is the bottom line. Now the question is, though they can do little themselves to change the challenges of this bottom line, though they can do little to change the challenges of the bottom line of being a ideological state, Muslim ideological state, though the present struggle for power has made Pakistan a very difficult state. My submission is that this is a political tinderbox lying by your side. And as far as military powers is concerned, they are no match with us. But any person or any senior person will say that will not like by our neighbor igniting, as some frames may come into India or the neighboring state. Now, Pakistan may agree to stop terrorism from its territory by saying to India, Pakistan may stop raising this issue of J&K in international forums. Pakistan may agree to give India a most favored nation state in the World Trade Organization. These are some of the things which may somehow or other make Pakistan acceptable to India at some stage. But whether he'll do it or not, whether Pakistan will do it or not, even Imran Khan or A, B, C, D, my question is the bottom line still will remain that who has got the military edge? Which particular person has a military edge? And irrespective of the fact whether their military is powerful or not. Powerful means powerful to deal with Indian army. No, they may not be powerful. Yet, for the Pakistan and the people of Pakistan, it is only that if the military comes into power, they may be able to rule with the iron hand, but that is a very problematic state as far as India is concerned.
You see, the problem is whether the military comes to power or not. Can they fix the problem? Ambassador Khatri, what is your opinion? Whether it's Imran Khan who comes to power or whether it's the military that is in power, can they fix the economic problem today that Pakistan is facing?
I think you had begun by saying first whether they can fix the problem, and then you refined it to say whether they can fix the economic problem.
Yeah.
I think if we step back 3 decades, a little over 3 decades, we would find that the human development indices of Pakistan were superior to ours.
Yes.
That's
true.
In these 3 decades, they've gone down. They've slid down dramatically. These were the 3 decades that saw the liberalization of the Indian economy. It's not been an easy process, but that process has continued and our economy has grown. And it's growing still. It has had problems. It has problems, but it is growing. I think the problem with Pakistan is far deeper. We talk of, in general, Katoch mentioned about the radicalization of Pakistan. On that, I must confess that I haven't come to a conclusion. Pakistan was created on the basis of a two-nation theory by Indian Muslims following the mazhabs, the Islamic mazhabs that were then current in India. These were largely Barelvis, as General Katoch would know, and Deobandi. The Deobandis, in fact, if we look at it, were largely against the creation of Pakistan. Because we know that in Islam, in traditional Islam, there is no concept of a nation state. The Ummah is one. The Ummah is supposed to be one, and the political authority within the Ummah is to be exercised by a Khalifa or a Caliph. So, when we talk of radicalization, I do not really know. We know that there are changes taking place in Pakistani Islam. We know that Salafi tendencies and Salafi mazhabs have come in. The Wahhabis have come in. The Saudis have pumped in a lot of money. We also know that the Iranians at one stage in the 1990s, later on they've had problems, that they were encouraging Shia Shia militancy to counter the Saudis. So it became a kind of a playground for a Saudi-Iranian interplay. We know all this. But I think we don't have a firm fix on the changes in the mazhab that are there in Pakistan. We see, for example, within the Barelvis, the rise of the Tehrik-i-Taliban Pakistan. And who are the hardest on blasphemy laws. But I think we need to think a little deeper, and perhaps I would really submit for General Katoch's consideration that think tanks like the India Foundation need to probe a little deeper on the different theologies that are developing. For example, in the Pakistan, in the Punjab heartland, are people at the ground level really getting influenced by, say, in their social mores, social customs, by the Talibani thinking, which is Salafi? I remember Ahmad Shah Massoud once telling me that he doesn't understand the Islam of the Taliban. He was a very devout and pious Muslim. So we need to know a little more. Unfortunately, the term radicalized, to my mind, obscures more than it reveals. Because we are really dealing with theological issues here, and the secular traditions of the Indian state, as including the intellectual traditions, have prevented a full examination of this phenomenon. This word has become very common in the West and we've adopted it. But what is happening in the West is quite different in their Islamic communities. But what is happening in Pakistan, I would submit that we need to learn a little more, because I don't think we know enough. For example, what is happening in Sindh? What is the kind of teachings that are taking place and how are they influencing what is taking place in the mosques in Sindh? Is a place like the Peers and the different dargahs in Sindh and including in Lahore, Tatta Ganj Baksh, are they changing? And that has naturally an impact on us. So I'm raising questions, and I must confess I don't have answers, because we don't have direct access there, and there isn't enough scholarly literature on these issues. So everyone has impressions, and that, I think, for a country like us, with our population, a Muslim population, as General Katoch rightly said, we need to probe this a little deeper. Not only there, I would submit, if you permit me, just one more sentence. We need to know more what is happening on this score in Bangladesh. What is happening in Sri Lanka? We've seen what happened in Sri Lanka. So these are the kind of things that we now need to focus on, instead of just being satisfied with the surface, because I haven't seen enough scholarly literature being produced on these theological issues sufficiently within.
You're very right. Now let's come down to POJK. Now you see, people in Pakistan have started calling Azad Kashmir as Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. So I've heard this, and there's a Dr. Mirza who's been sort of voicing his opinion and holding rallies in POJK, as he's calling it, which is a movement now taking birth for integrating POJK with India, and they do not want to remain with Pakistan. What is your opinion, Dhruv, on this?
Firstly, Dr. Mirza is not doing anything in Gilgit-Baltistan or in Mirpur Muzaffarabad. He's based in Canada. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Mirza, he's based, I think, in Canada, if I'm not wrong. He's not actually operating from Gilgit-Baltistan. That is one point. Now, he's got his own TV channels, and he gives, he covers these events in a very systematic manner. But I want to put a few things in the correct perspective as far as this issue is concerned. Now, when we are looking at Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, really, there were two parts to this, One was Gilgit-Baltistan and the other was Mirpur Muzaffarabad. Now, this Mirpur Muzaffarabad portion, this particular portion, they don't have any pro-India sentiments at all. Not all what you are seeing is occurring in Gilgit-Baltistan because of multiple factors. But one of the major factors which has come in is because the Chinese have come in there, their land is being used, and they are getting nothing out of it. And a very large percentage of Punjabi population has also settled into the Gilgit-Baltistan areas. So they feel cheated. And they don't really have that sense of governance, I mean, the fellow who is controlling them is really sitting in Islamabad. So they don't have any measure of self-governance as far as Gilgit-Baltistan is concerned. Though Mirpur Muzaffarabad, what they like to call as Azad Kashmir, they have got their own setup. But even their setup is subordinate to what is dictated to them in Islamabad and in Pindi. So that is one aspect of it. Now, I don't see any major movement of their coming into India at this point of time. As of now, though, if truth is to be said, yes, the earlier hostility which was there, even in Gilgit-Baltistan, that is reduced. That is a fact. So that earliest, but it hasn't really become into a positive thing that, okay, we'll join India. If they have actually mentioned on the street, which I have heard those slogans that we want to, join India and all that, I think as of now, it is still much more a message to the Pakistani establishment. Listen, you better wake up. If you don't do anything for us, we have another option. So for what they have done is they have thrown an option onto the table. Now, a very interesting point with Ambassador Kajju raised, which I just want to dwell on. You see, when he spoke about we need to do something about what exactly is happening in amongst the Muslims, in their lifestyle behaviors, etc., in Pakistan. I personally have had a series of meetings with quite a few Afghan leaders who have actually spent a lot of time in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. And these girjas, what they call it, where these village heads and all get together and they have their meetings. They very specifically say that 30 to 40 years ago, it was the village headmen, whichever part of the area which you talk from, the group of 30, 40, 50 villages, the chap who's, the head there, who controls that particular group. It is his voice which used to count, and the Maulvi would be sitting quietly in the corner. What has fundamentally changed today is nothing can move without the Maulvi. The Maulvi has actually taken power. And that fundamental change has taken place both in Afghanistan and in some parts of Pakistan, especially along the border belt. Now, has that seeped into the interior? I think Ambassador Kajju's point is right. We need to actually look into that much more seriously as to how do they conduct the internal business. But unfortunately, one fact is proved, and that is the hate speeches which emanate from the mosque against non-Muslims. That is a fact which was not existing, say, 30 to 40 years ago, but which is very prevalent now. And ultimately, when you have eliminated the minorities, you've eliminated the Hindus, the Sikhs, the Christians, anybody else, after that, you start fighting amongst yourself. Because Pakistan fundamentally is still not clear about who is a Muslim in Pakistan. How do you define a Muslim? And one of their former judges, chief justices, when he was asked in the 50s to define a Muslim, and he went into this entire caboodle as to who is a Muslim, he made a statement: if I give a definition of any one sect, all other sects will disagree to it. So there is going to be, even defining whom they are. I think as a people, the Pakistanis, they can't define themselves. There are huge historical inconsistencies. Who are we as a people is a question which Pakistanis need to ask themselves. But I'm afraid nobody's asking that question.
They've begun to ask that question now. Who are we? They have no history.
They have no history.
They have no history, and their history is India. Their history belongs to Hindustan. And now you see, you also have this separatist movement starting off which was already there in Balochistan. It is also sort of fermenting itself to a much larger degree. And you also have Sindh people wanting a separate Sindhu Desh. Ambassador Kajju, what do you think of this problem in Balochistan and Sindhu Desh? Do you think they'll separate out?
Balochistan has always had separatist tendencies, and the very serious separatist movements. I think the latest round is the 5th. It goes back to the days of the partition, when the Kalat state was amalgamated by Jinnah, and that sentiment of being separate from Pakistan has never vanished. A sentiment that they are being overwhelmed by non-Baluchis, that their way of life is being threatened, and that they are being exploited. So that is a basic cause of this. But at the same time, I think the Pakistan army has the wherewithal to hold Baluchistan in its grip. I don't see the Baluchis developing the capabilities to take on the Pakistani army and succeed in a separatist move. That is point one. Sindhu Desh, I think, is on the wane. There is no serious movement in what was in Sindh for a separate Sindh or to carve out Sindh. There were great tensions between the native Sindhi population and the Muhajirs when they arrived and when Karachi was the capital. But those troubles have mutated. Karachi, for example, today has the largest concentration of Pashtuns. So it is in many ways a Pashtun city, and there is the traditional clash which used to be there between Sindhi sub-nationalism and the Muhajir has been overtaken as a clash between the Pashtuns and the Muhajirs. So it's a little complex. I'll make one other point, if you may. I think I agree with General Katoch when he says that the mullah in the Pashtuns has become more powerful, though again here there is lack of scholarly research, so we really don't know what is actually taking place in the power structures in the Pashtun lands and the Pashtun communities, because we are talking of a very, very large stretch of territory. And there's no uniformity there among the tribes. There's certain common features, but certainly no uniformity. Now, when you cross the Indus and you come into the Punjab, and we know that Pakistan is essentially Punjab, there has the power of the mullah increased in the Punjab villages? I don't know. I haven't seen any literature to indicate that the mullah today is, how should I put it, more influential with, say, the landlords who really directed the mullahs in the past, whether that equation is changing. Certainly, in places like Karachi and Lahore, etc., the traditional mullah is still looked upon as a figure of fun. What has happened is that the tanzeems have grown. And the tanzeems have, with the encouragement of the state, of the Pakistan state, and they have become Frankensteins in some ways. And the Pakistanis don't know how to control them. Like the TTP. The TTP, after all, was encouraged initially by the Pakistani state, by the agencies, till the TTP turned against them. But the Pakistani state doesn't seem to have learned any lessons, because they are still in bed with the Jaish and the Lashkar. I'm not talking of the Hizb at all, but the Jaish and the Lashkar. So the submission I'm making is that one has, because Pakistan is, after all, we're talking of a country of almost 23 crores of people. It's a huge place with a huge population. So one can't view it in monochromatic terms. There are distinctions. And for us, for our scholarly and academic community, for our think tanks, for our government agencies, I think it is vital to understand the different hues and tones of Pakistan and not view it just in one color.
Thank you very much. The last question for all of us is, what should India be doing now, considering that there is confusion in Pakistan, there's turmoil in Pakistan, there's political instability, there's an economic downturn, the army is being questioned for its existence. As Indians, what should we be doing to protect ourselves from any fallout of what happens in Pakistan? I start with you, Mr. Sipal Singh, first. 2 minutes.
You see, whatever we have stated, General Dharav or Katyu, are facts at the moment. How the contours take over is not known. I am of the view that irrespective of the fact whether some saner elements may step in, whether some government outside Pakistan may help, or some US may come and US state may come and help. I am of the firm view that we have to consider 3 points in India as far as fallout is concerned. First of all, knowing very well the mullah's influence on Muslims. You know, I visited Sargodha some time back, and I know that they are still carrying, irrespective of the fact that they realize that the East Punjab, or now called our Punjab, we were very friendly, we were very affectionate. But when it comes to religion, they do not deviate.
1 minute more for you, sir.
No, I'm coming. So therefore, Imran Khan may say one thing. He may talk to India by talking, try to please India by saying that is a very khuddar kaum and all this. The fact remains that a Talibanized Pakistan, particularly Talibanized Pakistan, because there is danger. As far as Taliban is concerned, irrespective of the fact they still do not realize the Durand line. Afghanistan still does not realize the Durand line between Afghanistan and Pakistan. A Talibanized Pakistan as our neighbor, and that also in a very unstable form, can be very dangerous. China factor cannot perhaps be totally ignored. The Dragon has already sufficient inroads, as well as ships and aircrafts on the ground close to Pakistan and close to India. We can't tell at this stage what is likely to cause a conflict or war with our neighbor and how the PLA will react. Desperate leaders in Pakistan, encircled with all that problems, may resort to some extreme measures. And that they may be tempted to use Pakistan. And for that reason, they may do some mischief with India, though they can be contained well, but it can be dangerous. Over and above, a nuclear Pakistan lying between India, Afghanistan, and China is a matter of concern. Although after abrogation of Article 370 of the Constitution from J&K, the relationship had deteriorated considerably between Pakistan and India at one stage. Now they are quiet. But that doesn't mean they have accepted it. Pakistan has accepted that Article 370 is abrogated. Good. It is not because of their own problem, they are quiet. So my question is that our policies, as well as the impact in India is concerned, is going to have an impact, direct, indirect, or anything. But I am feeling that our policies at this stage, probably they must be doing, either covert or overt policies, have to meet the crisis which is occurring at the moment in the Pakistan.
So I'd like you to conclude.
This is most important.
Dhruv has got to go. Dhruv, your concluding remarks on what India should be doing to protect itself from the...
Pavan, first take is, I think the biggest danger to India, as I made in my opening remarks, is not the Pakistan, it is not a conventional military threat, nor a terrorist threat. It is an ideological threat. And that is getting bigger by the day. We need to take measures, especially amongst the clergy and amongst the Muslim citizenry in India, to see that those influences don't come here. This is one. Number two, I think Pakistan is not something that what happens in Pakistan is really outside the control of India. So let us not feel that we can make a difference to Pakistan. They are doing what they have to do. We should simply keep a watch and see that no adverse impacts come to us. Keep a watch on this country. We have done very well diplomatically and politically to isolate Pakistan. I would suggest we continue to do the same. And lastly, keep growing economically. That is your best weapon against any of these influences. We do that, we'll be okay. Pakistan, they have to sort out their own problems. Pavan.
Ambassador Katchu, what are your idea on how does India protect itself from the turmoil in Pakistan today?
Look, Pakistan, I beg to differ with Dhruv. Pakistan can't be isolated. The international community will engage Pakistan. It's a country of 220 million people with nuclear weapons, with a strong army. Whether we like it or not, it's a professional force. It's also a political force. So they will not, we can't isolate it. Yes, we can keep the spotlight on Pakistan's activities on terrorism. So that is something that we've been doing and doing successfully. After all, I doubt whether the government was happy with the FATF removing Pakistan from the grey list, but it was done. So let's acknowledge reality here. That is one. I think diplomatically, the Modi government is pursuing a sound policy. We've made it very plain to them, and that's something which we must stick with. That there's no question of an engagement with you, an engagement to address substantive issues. Still, you are willing to abandon your use of terror. I don't see that happening at an early date. So that impasse will continue. The only point I think where we need to engage them, engage in the sense talk to them, is on humanitarian issues. And there, prisoners and border crossings and fishermen, because those are really issues concerning the people, and those channels must be kept open. I have often felt that it'd be better to leave that to the national human rights commissions on both sides. I think part of the problem is we have a statutory commission, but they don't. So if we can have those ideas focused on, वो घर में चूल्हे नहीं जलते हैं, वो बेचारे अगर you hear of children, a 14-year-old boy crossing from here to the other side, 13-year-old boy crossing both sides, and then being held for years and years because of the judicial processes being what they are. I think we've got to focus on those human issues also. These larger issues, I doubt whether we'll be able to address them. My last point, last one word, we've got to manage Pakistan. At the end of the day, it's a management exercise. For the time being, we're doing it well. Each Prime Minister, including Mr. Modi, has sought to transform the relationship, and each Prime Minister has failed because of the nature of the Pakistan state and its foundational policy.
Before I conclude, one of the things that we actually did not address in the entire conversation today is the Chinese influence to CPEC that is coming to Pakistan. The loans that the Pakistan government is, or the debt that Pakistan is under to the Chinese. And now that the Chinese consulate are beginning to close down their affairs in Pakistan. So there will be some kind of a economic fallout of the CPEC also on Pakistan. How does it affect us? I really don't know at this point of time. And I'd like to thank you, Mr. Sipal Singh, for your time, Ambassador Katchu and General Dhruv Katoch, for the wonderful discussion that we've had today. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.